for that, or if that has anything to tie into it. It has to do with their loot boxes. But you could argue if you make somebody spend money on loot boxes, like for gacha to get things, and then you shut down the service, you actually did steal from somebody because they no longer have access to the thing that they bought.
Yeah.
It's a very soft argument because there's obviously a terms of service, and you're fully aware that this stuff goes away when the server does. But just because there's a terms of service doesn't mean it holds up in court. We've yet to see any court delegate over somebody taking away stuff you bought in a gacha game.
Mm-hmm. Nerd Wonder tweeted, "Mozzarella sticks restore happiness."
They do. I think that is actually one of the buffs that the food gives you when you eat it.
Yeah.
But we are live. Hey! Welcome, everyone, to the Vomitorium. As always, I'm your host, Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer, who I can't see, but there's probably good reasons for that today. You're in a hotel room,
well,
probably.
Yeah. I'm in a not very pretty hotel room, and I did take a bit of a nap this afternoon, so my hair's crazy. And...
Hey, it's all fair. Whether you want to be on camera or not, it's your prerogative.
But I'm on my laptop, and yeah, I'm here. I'm awake.
You're awake.
I may have just woken up 15 minutes ago, but that's still on time.
Yep. Here, let me.
The show is at 4:00 now for me.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because it's crazy. If we have to reschedule, we can, because I know your work schedule and stuff like that. But being back towards Arizona, you guys have a very weird thing where half the year it's 1 hour difference, and half the year it's 2 hour difference.
Yeah. Well, it's more like 3/4 of the year. It's 2 hours.
Yeah, it's not a full half or anything, because it's only
daylight savings time is so freaking long now.
Yeah. I think we should abolish it.
Yeah, if the rest of you would come to your senses and abolish daylight savings, then we'd always be on the hour behind.
Yeah, because apparently that's like one of the few things that like Arizona's based about is like we're not dealing with daylight savings. The rest of you guys can go like fuck yourselves.
Yeah, Arizona and Hawaii are the only two states that won't do it, and I don't really know why, but.
Well, Hawaii, I get.
It is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because it's a little further down. It's closer to the equator, so its change of the year isn't as drastic as other people's anyway in the seasons. And it's so far away, it's closer to the international dateline. I think it's only like a couple hours off. That like, if it was only 1 hour off, and I don't remember it is, if you were actually to do daylight saving, it might actually just touch the international dateline. Yeah. And you might end up in a different day. It's like, no, we're not messing with that. Just same time all year.
Something like that. From what I understand, daylight savings wreaks havoc with dairy farmers in particular. So you would think some Midwestern states would say, forget about it.
Yeah, because, I can imagine that.
They have to wake up at the same time every day to milk the cow. I guess it's not such an issue today with modern technology and modern refrigeration and everything, but I think it used to be an issue or used to potentially be an issue because they would have to wake up at the same time, but the markets would change, you know?
Yeah. Because the cows are still on their schedule no matter what. You can't tell a cow, like, oh, hey, dude, we're during daylight saving. Can you wake up and also start, like,
can you hold
lactating and stuff at different times? Like, no, I'm a cow.
Right. I imagine that problem's been solved. I'm sure it's, they don't worry too much about, refrigeration anymore, because I'm sure it's...
Well, daylight savings has always been bad for farmers, which I find funny because there was like this misinformation going around for the longest time. I think even schools tried to teach it, though like history class should be giving you the actual history. And people used to think like, oh, no, daylight savings was for farmers because, they need sunlight. It's like, no, farmers always get up before the sun gets up anyway, regardless of the time of year. And they start doing things normally. And now we've got spotlights that can show your entire field in the dark. Like, They get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was wartime effort, and actually it's because Germany adopted it first, and we needed to catch up to them, so we weren't going to let them be getting up before us. And we're still doing it.
Well,
Like, man, screw the Germans.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I feel like it may be because I took a different route, but it was a very different experience driving through Texas to Arizona this time than it was when I did it back in 2017, I think.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like there were way more windmills.
Mm-hmm.
And way more. There was a solar panel field that was interesting that I drove by. Like it wasn't like a solar power plant, where it has like
just
mirrors
like
shining.
a solar farm with just like a field of
Field of I don't know how it worked exactly, but it gets wired together, solar panels, soaking up the sun. So. I imagine a bunch of. I bet farmers. It looked like a lot of farms just were dotted with those windmills.
Yeah.
So
well, it's
I'm
a
sure
good area for windmills. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Sure, they're like, sure, you can use my land if you pay me X, Y, Z or whatever. Just put it right there. Nobody's living there, so
Yeah.
doesn't
The only
really
big problem.
disturb the crops. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, it's not even just the crops directly. Windmills kill a lot of birds. And then you have dead birds falling down onto your land, which then attracts scavengers, and then when scavengers are already there, they tear into the crops. It's like a chain effect thing, but they make more money off of having the windmill on their land than they lose having to repair shit that happens from having a windmill on their land.
I guess, yeah.
Especially because windmills are subsidized.
Mm-hmm. I don't understand why they would kill birds. Like, can't birds see them?
So
it's right there, bird. Don't fly
really
in.
Weird. Birds don't navigate long distance with their sight.
Oh yeah.
Right. They navigate by two things. The electromagnetic field of the Earth. Their brains have kind of like adapted to be in tune with it, so they oscillate to the electromagnetic field, and they navigate by drafts, like air currents and stuff like that, right? So the problem with a windmill is, of course you're not looking, especially if you're a predator, because you're trying to look down at the ground to see if there's a meal during your transit. They catch you to a draft, they're like, okay, this is a natural wind draft that the windmill is now taking, right?
Yeah.
Because the rotation of the windmill focuses a current, right? It's catching the wind, but then it also focuses a current from it, and now the bird gets caught in the draft of the windmill, and then just hit it and die.
I guess.
Yeah. This shows who asked too, why would they intentionally fly? They don't intentionally fly. Most of the time they're looking for a meal that's down on the ground. Because, I mean, why would you rely on your eyesight that high up, right? You're not thinking you're going to crash into anything else.
Yeah.
It's clouds and stuff like that, so...
I guess they're not evolved to, pay attention to what's in front of them, because usually it's just air.
Yeah, and that's why very, very few migratory birds are in big cities as well. They route around them. But the few that are the especially intelligent. Like you'll see crows fly through big cities while they're migrating, but crows are like crazily intelligent compared to most other birds. They're like them and parrots are the two smartest families. Pigeons are like right underneath them, but pigeons also live in the city. In fact, a lot of what we think pigeons are a neighboring, like a cousin thing to corvids. They aren't corvids themselves, but they're like non-migratory. And maybe at one point they were like corvids, and human society got them to spread off into their own thing, because they're like, yo, these humans just drop food everywhere. Why would we ever leave? But pigeons are actually crazy smart. That's also why, like, have you ever seen, like, really brave pigeons, where they're, like, humans are walking around, the pigeons are just right there, they don't even fly away or anything, even though with a human walking by. Well, any other bird, if you came close to them, is because the pigeons know. Like, just for generations, they was like, most of the humans aren't going to fuck with us, or if they do, we actually have the reflexes to get out at the last second or whatever. Like, They're smart. They know they can just sit there and keep eating.
Yeah, they've evolved to live amongst humans and almost domesticated.
Oh, I think we're the ones domesticated from their perspective.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Like, look, these guys just give us free food all the time.
That's right.
Yeah. But
Well, I did.
we got.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about first?
Oh, I was gonna let you finish what you were saying.
I said I was going to say I did manage to watch the PlayStation showcase today
Oh yeah.
while I was working, but I don't know if you
can
wanted to
start
start with
with
that or
That's fine.
come back to it. I wasn't impressed that much. They did have a Final Fantasy 16 new long trailer.
Yeah,
was
they called
really
it
cool.
their story trailer.
Yeah. It looks really cool.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed by it.
Okay.
No, but the problem is just because we've seen so much of 16 at this point. It was a very well crafted trailer.
Really?
If this was the first trailer I ever saw, I probably would be impressed
Yeah.
by it.
Yeah, they didn't really show anything new.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was just still, it looked spectacular. Anyway.
This is basically the final trailer to hype up for it. This is the trailer they would show as commercials if they were actually trying to sell the game, as opposed to getting the industry and gamers hyped for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's coming out June 22nd. We got
very
29 days to go.
Now, it did come with some information about it, some stuff that I'm actually happy about, because you don't hear this much in the industry outside of, like, maybe Nintendo. Number one, there's not going to be a day one patch.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we've heard that a lot from different companies, but usually we hear that, like, a year out, and then by the time we close, like, no, there's going to be a day one patch. But when you hear it a month out, you're like, okay, well, there probably isn't going to be a day one patch, because that'd be pretty hard to lie about at this point.
Yeah, well, they finished it like 3 months ago, so it's been finished forever. You'd think if they found anything, they've had plenty of time to patch it before it ships.
Yeah. And the other one is that they currently have no plans for DLC. That doesn't mean there won't be DLC, but they aren't, like, already started on DLC or anything. Like, they're actually going to wait till this game ships. They're going to see if it's actually successful, and then they'll make DLC for it. And it seems a lot of their decisions on this game were all flavored by the backlash from Final Fantasy 15. Because Final Fantasy 15 did have a massive day one patch. Final Fantasy 15 had a lackluster story, and this game is focusing heavy on the story because people found 15 story lackluster. It was unfinished to the point that they actually had to take things that were planned to be in the game and make them DLC, so they were already working on it when the game came out. And it's like, well, all of those problems is they're like, no. This is a complete game. You can enjoy it when you get it, and if it sells well, then we'll consider about supporting it in the future.
Yeah. Well, that all sounds good.
Yeah. Too bad that it's not going to sell well because it's on a system nobody owns. Like, I want to praise them for all these decisions, except they made the one worst decision possible, and making your game exclusive to a system that, like, no one owns.
There's not going to be a PS4 version, I guess?
I don't think so. I think it's PS5 only. I don't think it's going to have a backwards compatible PS4 version. That's been, like, lowered specs from what I've heard. There will eventually be a PC version, but it will be past 6 months. Originally, people were assuming 6 months. They're like, no, it's not going to be ready in 6 months. So it could be like a year later for all we know. They are working on it now. They started working on it after they finished it. They're like, we can't start working on the port until after the PS5 version is done.
Yeah.
And there will never be a Xbox version either. So, which that's not a problem, because that would be, again, putting your game on a console that even less people have. But PC is more important at this point, because the PC audience has completely trounced both Xbox and PlayStation combined.
Well, maybe they're hoping it'll be a platform seller.
I think that's what they're hoping. I don't think it's going to, though. Not with the reputation Final Fantasy has now, because, like, their main audience they're trying to sell to are basically Final Fantasy 14 players, right? Because they're making it more active, which 14 they've been trying to make the fights more active for years. and they're headlining the fact that Yoshi P is the one producing it. So I just don't see even most 14 players buying it. Now, most people play 14 play on PlayStation, but that's like PlayStation 4. There's not like a hell of a lot of people playing it on PlayStation 5.
Yeah. I have my PlayStation 5 right here.
Yeah.
I wonder if I should plug it into the hotel TV. I should.
And the Switch. Why don't they release on Switch? Because it can't run on the Switch. And that is a modern problem with gaming, period. Is like, oh, no. We just want to make this as high fidelity, which most of these games, making them higher graphics, actually doesn't increase fidelity. Then you want to make it as hi-fi as possible, so they have to be on PlayStation. Even though like everybody owns a Switch. I was even thinking too, like if I made a game, I'd rather just make a simple game and put it on the Switch, because then at least I know people might play my game.
Yeah, geez. I mean, it's heading towards,
possibly best-selling console of all time by the end of its life.
Yeah, at least the top 3. Yeah. I mean, what did we say last week, that it sold like 110, 115 million?
Yeah. I think if by the end of its life cycle it breaks 150, because I think the next one's like 144, 145 or something. If it breaks 150, I don't even think a follow-up console will ever beat it, unless they do something crazy. Which I think that's also why Nintendo's always trying to do crazy things, because they're hoping to get the thing that beats the last one. But it's like, no.
Yeah.
If you just sold a better Switch as a Switch 2 and you actually labeled it properly, you could at least easily make 90 to another 100 million easily. Don't worry.
That's what I was wondering, is like, okay, what if they did a Switch 2? I haven't even looked, because the last time I looked at there was a Tegra chip that was, I don't know, 100 times faster than the Switch, but that was years ago. By now, I mean, could they make a Switch 2 that could run Final Fantasy 16? I bet they could.
But if they do, I feel like, and they've probably been working on this for a while, if they actually make a Switch 2, they're probably paying NVIDIA or someone to make a high quality chip that's just for the Switch. Yeah. Right? Like researching there. Like obviously if they make it, they'll have a commercial companion one. It's like when the military makes guns, and then there's one that like civilians can buy too. It's got a different name, but it's like effectively the same gun, right? They'll be like the Switch version, and then they'll make another unit that other people can buy.
Right. But yeah, that's what I really hope. I mean, obviously we've talked about it a million times, is that they just need to make it exactly the same as the Switch, only a million times more powerful. With amazing 4K graphics.
Why do companies difficult to better graphics to show processing power? Maybe you meant default to better graphics. Aren't there better ways of showing it off? Well, the only reason they actually really need more processing power right now, and it's not even full processing power, though the modern processors are pretty good. It's the GPU, the graphic processing unit. Is because of the graphics. That's it. They're trying to keep pumping into it, because it's not like most of these games are lowering their graphic and then they're rerouting energy to do crazy amounts of simultaneous multitasking or anything, where they're using both the CPU and RAM to juggle all kinds of stuff, which would be great if you were doing some type of intergalactic military strategy game. But nobody's doing stuff like that. They're literally only making these consoles better to make the graphics better. And so the world can all be rendering in real time and stuff like that. A lot of the modern decisions are actually strictly for these type of open world games that Sony wants to make, that people aren't really buying.
I was wondering, like, while I was watching this PlayStation showcase, I was thinking to myself, man, it would actually, I know people have criticized like Tears of the Kingdom for the graphics, and I don't have any problem with them. But it would be pretty freaking awesome if they looked like some of these games, where it's like unbelievably ultra realistic and stuff. Like I wonder if they're ever going to.
I would not want it to be unbelievably ultra realistic. I wouldn't mind certain parts of the engine, like how the ray tracing works and stuff. There's certain things we could do where light reflecting and bouncing off of things and ambient occlusion could be cooler. I like the highly stylized look.
Well, I mean,
in many ways,
I don't mean changing the look. I'm just saying the environments, the grass being more grassy and
Yeah.
just the mountains and the sky just looking really amazingly high resolution and all that.
Yeah, I think
Anyway,
like only if they do it in a way that keeps the fidelity. And this is one of the things that I like,
yeah.
because people talk about making their games hi-fi, but Nintendo, while at lower power, is actually making a high fidelity game. There's a lot of these games where even if they up the saturation so it's more vibrant, it's really hard to tell somebody from the background sometimes. Like if something's running at you or anything like that, or a puzzle location or something you're supposed to find, like it's hard to see in a lot of these games. It's actually low fidelity, which could be great if you're making a horror game. But if you're making like a action adventure game in an open world, you're like, eh. But like Tears of the Kingdom, at no point do I have ever had any problem telling the difference between any object in the overworld.
Yeah.
It's very high fidelity. Like Link stands out. If something's important, you see that important thing. You can always tell like animals, even something that's green and supposed to camouflage. If you're running past it, you won't notice. But if you're actually walking, you can tell it's like, oh, no, that's a thing in the grass. That's not just
Yeah.
a blob in my corner of my eye.
Yeah, you can see the what are they called? The crickets, the hasty crickets
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Jumping out of the grass. They didn't used to do that. I don't think
No,
in Breath of the Wild they never
they
show
didn't.
up in the grass.
But as long as they keep that, I don't care
Yeah.
what they do to the graphics, as long as the game is still like that, because that's a game right there. I don't want something to look like a movie, because even sometimes in these modern movies, things are so muddy that you can't often tell what's going on if it's not the central focus
Yeah.
of the shot. It's like, no, I don't want my games to be like that. I have to interact with that. A movie I'm passively watching, I can rewatch that same scene multiple times if I miss something just by rewinding or going back a chapter. Game, sometimes, if I want to see that thing again, I have to go play through the whole game again, and that might be like 10 hours of my life wasted. Or I die and I replay the scene, but then it's like, what if I was trying my damnedest? I didn't want to die. It's like, no, I want my world. I feel more immersed in a world when I can see everything than it being realistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I fought a battle Talus the other day.
Oh yeah. How'd you do?
I've been playing it off and on. Not the first time. I didn't have anything but just myself, and I haven't found any of the great fairies. I guess I should just go to Kakariko
Really?
Village. I imagine
I've
there's
seen
one
all
there.
of them almost, but
No, no,
well, I don't
haven't-
know all of them. There might be more than the 4, but I've seen like 4 of them. The
Yeah.
problem is, you have to do like a quest. I don't know what they are. I think each one wants you to bring an offering or whatever. But I think the first time you see one, they don't want you opening until you've gone to the Rito village or one of the places. I don't remember exactly. I wasn't the one playing. I was watching somebody play. But there was like one right next to a stable or whatever. Like they're pretty easy to find.
Well, I haven't found any so far, and so all my armor is pretty weak. So
Yeah.
basically, I was doing okay, and there was like a rock that I was hiding behind whenever it would like throw its arms at you.
Yeah.
And I stood up on the rock, and I thought that it wasn't going to hit me. I thought it was going to hit below the the thing that I was standing on, and it threw its rock right in my face, and just
Yeah.
one shot killed me. I was like, ah, shit. But yeah, I beat it the second time around.
That's good.
It
That's good.
wasn't that hard. You just it was like on a hill, so I could like climb up the hill and then like float down and like land on top of it. I killed all the bokoblins that were on it, and then I kept landing on it, and then it was
Yeah, those
easy.
things are almost like a moving base. Like something
Yeah.
you'd expect to see in like Ark Survival Evolved, where somebody builds like a moving base on a Titanosaur or something.
Yeah, and it drops a heart, a Talus heart. It was kind of neat.
There's all kinds of weird things. Like usually they're behind big bosses like that, and you don't have to fight the boss if you're sneaky. But there's like chests that'll contain things like the Sage's Will that are by the world bosses, like one of the constructs. And it's like you give them the goddess statues. It's like, oh, there's another thing to upgrade aside from your hearts or your stamina.
Is that what you do? You give them
Yeah,
to the
when you picked it
goddess?
up, it said that you bring 4 of them to the goddess statue. I'm like, oh, okay, it's another thing to bring to the goddess statue.
Huh, I haven't figured that out yet. What is the little thing like when you defeat one of those constructs that they're made of boxes? Um, it drops this little. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there's like
It drops this little
there's like
moving thing.
maybe I don't know. But my brother picked one up from when he was fighting the construct. I don't remember if because I don't think he killed the construct, but he got the Sage's Will. I don't know if he got it from a chest that was like by
Uh-huh.
the construct or if he knocked it out and then he
Well,
just
this was something else.
yeah.
Yeah, no, this was something else because it dropped when the construct died. It dropped from the construct, and you can't put it in your inventory. It's something you can pick up,
Oh, I don't know what
but
that
you
is.
have to like, and I don't know what to do with it. Like, there's nowhere to put it. There's nowhere
Yeah.
to.
Well,
Nothing
at
to
this
do.
point, all of my observations are still just secondhand. I have not been playing
Mhm.
it. Part of it too is because I've been lazy. And since we're moving soon, I had already packed up my Switch and everything, right? And I'm like, well, if I want to play it, then I have to unpack my Switch
Mhm.
and set everything up. And I'll play it soon, maybe.
Yeah.
Honestly, watching people play it just made me want to go back and play Genshin Impact, so I started exploring that world again. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, anyway,
it
enough.
seems pretty fun. It's pretty fun. We did
Yeah.
have something else from the
Let's-
PlayStation State of Play thing
Yeah.
that was hilarious that they even decided to do this. And they're like, hey, Square. Yeah, Sony? We need a new game. We need to be pretty competitive with our only real competition right now, Nintendo, who's killing everyone. Can you make us a game? It's like, okay, what about Splatoon? It's like, well, you can't just make Splatoon. No. We're not going to make it look like we're copying their homework. So they came out with this game called Foam Stars, which is a candy-colored 4v4 multiplayer game that has you shooting each other with multicolored foam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have to? I didn't quite catch. Do you have to? Do you have to like color the ground with the
I couldn't
foam,
tell
or-
that because I only watched it briefly. Maybe if I went back and rewatched it, I'd catch it. But
Yeah.
there's a whole
funny.
battlefield, and you're shooting each other with foam.
Yeah,
like the
Fitzgerald's
models.
got it.
Yeah.
Literally Splatoon.
Literally, Splatoon. Yeah. The models look fine. I mean, I do like their kind of like anime look.
Mhm.
It seems high enough fidelity. I'm talking about like using a system, but still being able to tell where everything is. I got that from the trailer. But
Yeah.
aside from that, it's like it just looks like Splatoon. And why would I want to play higher resolution Splatoon on a system nobody owns, where I have to pay more to play online when I already have a Switch and already have Switch Online and I can just play Splatoon.
Yeah. And Splatoon 3 is pretty awesome. But the thing is, like Splatoon 3, like shooting each other is just incidental. It's just to
Yeah.
slow the other team down. The main goal is to paint the floor.
Well, unless you're
wondering
like your
if,
team's dedicated assassin, right? Like you're the steady
Yeah.
melee guy, because then they explode and they cover them in the place in your paint. If you're like the one guy doing that, and then like other people are like on defense, like they're actually trying to get territory down. That's why the squad up, right? Actually making a squad is cool because you can come up with strategies like, okay, these
Yeah.
two are going to focus on keeping our territory. I'm going to focus on expanding our territory, and Bobby here is actually just going to sneak by and just stab everybody in the back and explode them, right? But
Yeah.
then, like, you need your at least 2 defenders because obviously the other team's going to have their strategy too that you're going to have to adapt to, and it's a fun game, very fun game. Especially when you can't communicate because you're playing with randos. Then it's like, okay, all strategies are out the window. Just try to figure something out.
Yeah. Just go. Just paint as much area as you can and try and get the other guys. It doesn't. So I'm looking at it now, and it does look like it's just you're just trying to shoot the other guys. I don't think the goal is anything
Yeah,
else.
it looks like it's pulling from a lot of stuff. Very Fortnite too, because you can build on the terrain.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
kind of 3D. Yeah.
And in fact, I think Fortnite might be their bigger competitor, like that they're trying to go against. But it's kind of like somewhere between the two. It's like Fortnite, but with like Splatoon themes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to it's hard to tell because there's scenes in the trailer where they're like shooting the ground. So I'm like, wait, is the goal to cover the ground, or are they just kind of building up an area? I don't know. It's hard
Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe killing people is the plan, and shooting the ground is incidental.
Yeah, right. So
yeah,
it is a cutesy little game. I like the characters. Definitely.
I would say though I would prefer playing something like that over Fortnite by comparison because I don't really care for the battle royale thing. But team fights are fun. I like arena shooters, which is one of the reasons I kind of like Splatoon, is because it is a weird take on an arena shooter in a way. It's just a team arena shooter that uses the idea of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater graffiti mode. So,
yeah. Well, the one thing I don't like about Fortnite is like the building. I don't know. I don't know how people are able to build so quickly. I can't be that precise, and I don't know if they've made it easier. But
it's actually the one thing I like about that game. Because if you take it away, it's literally just a battle royale, and it's like I don't give a shit about the battle royale game mode.
Yeah.
I used to like the opposite. One of my favorite game modes in OG Halo was King of the Hill, right? Which battle royale is kind of a take on King of the Hill, but the way that one is like it's Hunger Games or whatever was what they would call them in the mods, right? And the arena slowly collapses on you. So if you're outside of that collapse, you die until there's only one. So it's a last man standing situation, like the movie Battle Royale. But King of the Hill was the opposite, where it was like capture the node or capture the point in Overwatch is based on King of the Hill. And it was you got to the node, to the point, and you tried to be on it longer than anyone else. So like the first person who got like 5 total minutes on the hill was the winner, right? So you keep killing people, so you spend the most time solo in the point. That was a fun game mode, especially because you kept respawning too, and everybody was just constantly at each other's neck to try to get it.
Well, the only other game that caught my eye was a new Cat Quest.
Yeah, I saw your tweet on that. You were pretty excited.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was really the only game I was super excited about. I love Cat Quest. This one was called, I think it was called Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that. So it looked like there was some sailing that you could do, sail around in ships and shoot other things with cannons. Yeah, it looks awesome. But if you're not familiar with Cat Quest, it's just you won't get it. You just don't get it, man.
Well, there was an interesting thing, right? So it was there was the live Q&A afterwards with a bunch of different people, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of this happened on Twitter too. So like not everybody could be on the stream version of the Q&A. Yeah. And what I thought was cool, which Cat Quest is cool. The original Cat Quest was cool too. Yeah. But we mentioned this, or I mentioned this before we went live. The producer of Live Alive came on and mentioned that if the remake gets enough sales, we could get a sequel. Like the actual original producer of the game came back to make the Live Alive HD remake. And we will make a Live Alive 2 if enough of you buy it.
When did that originally come out?
That's an SNES era game.
Oh, wow.
So that's, I don't know, if I were to take a random guess, 1994.
Wow, you're exactly right.
Wow, okay.
I just looked it up, yeah. Did that ever come out in the US for the SNES?
Nope. I played it years ago with a fan translation mod on an emulator. But this was like even years afterwards, so I think it must have been like maybe 2006 when I played it, back when I was in high school. So I still want to play the HD 2D remake further than the demo. It looks really cool, and it'd be nice to see an official translation because a lot of these fan translations are actually pretty good. These guys painstakingly try, but there's something different when you see the official translation, right?
Yeah.
See, one day,
Well, that's cool.
Skeleton
guess
says
that
one
means
day
I
I'm going
need
to
to buy.
strap Metal down to his seat and force him to play Garten and Bon Bon. Okay. If it's fun, I'll probably play it. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited that this obscure game that only got, let me say obscure, it was really popular in Japan, but only ever got international release like this last year is possibly finally getting a sequel just because it's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I hope enough people buy it.
Yeah, I do too. I need to buy it.
They did
but
just
I still
release
own
it
a
on
copy.
they did just release it on everything, so there's
I
no
hope that
excuse.
helps, but like, if I buy it, I'm still getting it on the Switch anyway, because why wouldn't I? And I do feel like it's still going to come down to like, what's it called? Switch users buying it, because that's kind of the most players. I mean, sure, it's PC. There's a lot of PC players too, but like, I think the Switch is what's going to make the difference. So people need to go and get it.
Yeah, well, it's been out on the Switch for like a year,
Yeah.
I think.
And I think, well, one of the problems too, and this is a problem for it as well, just coming out. When it launched, it came out at the same time that a lot of other big titles did. And now, like, the cross-platform launch, not only did Tears of the Kingdom on Switch just come out, but there's other big titles that came out too. So it's like, I think it's just going to fly under the radar again. That's the sad part. Because who's going to buy this HD remake of an obscure Japanese RPG when you've got other big headline games coming out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love the. I mean, I would think that a lot of fans of like Octopath Traveler and the other HD 2D games might be interested in it. So I wish they would make more with that, but apparently it's not as easy as you would think to
No, it's not. Like,
make games with that engine or whatever.
it was easy for them to make Octopath 2 out of Octopath 1 because they had a lot of the world assets and stuff like that. But a lot of what goes into it is like the same level of modeling and rendering that goes into anything else, even though they're using pixel art. Yeah.
And presumably, like, since they're remaking Dragon Quest 3, I imagine they have to program all the world events,
Yeah.
from
Everything
scratch.
that was in the
so,
original game, but in Unreal Engine.
Yeah. I was hoping when they made a couple of games in that engine that would be like, oh, they could just pump these out, that should be easy. But I guess because it's not really an engine by itself.
No, it's not. They need to make a tool set for the engine that makes it easier for them to do it. That's what I think they need to do.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're incentivized to do that unless they sell really well. Now, luckily, the margin for what Square considers selling well versus, say, like Nintendo considers selling well are way different. Because, like, Octopath Traveler 1 sold well enough for them to make a sequel because it was like 1.2 million or something like that. But like Nintendo, if their game only sold 1.2 million and it was a first party game, they'd be like, that's not worth making another one.
Yeah. It's not enough. But yeah, I really wish, I've said this before, I wish they would just redo all the Dragon Quest games.
I do too.
That'd be fantastic.
I do too. I wish they would redo most of the Final Fantasies. I feel gypped that they made these pixel remasters on the verge of them having these games. I'm like, man, you could have just made 3 like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wish they would just add the newer content that they'd already made in previous remakes
to the pixel
remasters.
I agree. I 100% agree.
I keep hoping. Like, even if they did it as like a DLC, 99 cents or something, I'd buy it.
Yeah.
Whatever. So yeah, that's all I remember from the PlayStation Showcase. So.
Yeah. Well, funny enough too about PlayStation is that, on average, PlayStation 5 players are spending way more than the last generation. right? And that's not a good thing because it's not like they're spending more because they're buying more games. One of the problems is the PlayStation 5 is more expensive than the PlayStation 4, so that already starts to count. If we go like the lifetime average of the system, the lifetime to date average for PS4 is $479, right? It's a little higher when it was brand new, but for most of its lifespan, especially if you're getting refurbished or you're getting an older model new out of the box, you weren't necessarily spending as much. So on average, people were spending just under $500. The lifetime value of the PS5 so far hasn't even had a single drop down, even for the launch model, and it is $622. And that's considering the fact that there are both physical and digital only versions, and that's what's giving you that average, right? So that already starts off pretty bad. But then, full games, they're technically spending less. Outside of Final Fantasy VII and some newer games that are costing $70, most people are saving anywhere between $5 to $10 because they're buying more digital than they used to. So game costs are down 10% for PS5 users. But everything else, add-ons are up 210%, subscriptions are up 52%, and accessories are up 60%, including like new controllers, other external add-ons, that they're spending in total 30% more than PS4 players were.
Well, I'm paying for the yearly, PlayStation Plus subscription just because the game selection is quite good.
Yeah, it is good.
And you can download the games and then you have them forever.
And I think that people are even factoring that into the 10% decrease in game costs as well.
Yeah.
Because again, you're only usually if you go digital, you're only saving like $5 at best.
Yeah. I've hardly spent anything
on
it other than that. I mean, I bought that, and almost everything I play on there is something I downloaded for free.
But I can see why most people aren't buying PlayStations, right? Or even Xboxes, because even less people are buying it. What they call premium systems, because for some reason the Switch doesn't qualify as a premium console due to it being handheld, and it's last generation technology, which technically sure, whatever. But these two premium systems are so expensive that it's no wonder that the vast majority of people are just buying Switches where they can play fun games on them.
Yeah. Did you see the PlayStation is coming out with its own Switch?
I did not. I saw rumors because they had patented some stuff, but I did not see that part.
It's like a cross between a Switch and a Wii U controller. I don't think you can play it away from your console, but it's basically a way to play off.
So it's kind of like a Steam box, but a Wii U controller.
Yeah. It's like a Wii U controller. You play the game. It's I don't remember if they said it's 1080p or 4K or whatever, but it's it's basically just you can play your PlayStation without connecting it to a TV. Or it's a what do you call it? A wireless TV, basically, that you
pretty much with a controller built into it.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of a dock. It's a wireless dongle.
Yeah. Right. And then they had, like earbuds that I guess go with it, and the PlayStation VR looks pretty cool. They did show off a few VR games, but
there were some cool things about it. I also saw that
it's expensive.
There was another announcement. Help Wanted 2, Five Nights at Freddy's, right, is going to be in VR.
Yep. Saw that.
Which great marketing, having it at the same time as a Five Nights at Freddy's movie coming out.
Yeah. Well, there's always a new Five Nights at Freddy's game coming out, so it's like
yeah. But it's all about timing. Like we could have put it out in January. It's like no, we're gonna save it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's funny is that the fact that Scott Cawthon got forced out or whatever, or stepped out. It's like, okay, so he didn't have to do any of the work, but he still gets, he still owns the company. He still gets all the profit.
You have to do any of the work.
Right.
Even though they
right.
stepped out, you know, like he's slipping them notes. Like, okay, this is what you need to do with the next one.
Yeah.
Gotta give me my money.
That's right. Of course, he's, I think once you get to however rich he is, he probably doesn't even care about money anymore.
Probably not. But he is an artist. He is a creative. That's why I think, like, even if he was forced to, like, he wasn't forced. He voluntarily stepped down because of everything that was happening.
Right.
But like, I feel like he still has input and he's still telling them some things to do. Because if you look at his whole history before Five Nights at Freddy, he was making games, cheap games of the same like, a lot of them Christian games, most just as a hobby. Like, he was doing it knowing he wasn't going to make any money out of it. So I don't think the money for Five Nights at Freddy's really ever did it. I even thinking the fact that he stuck to Five Nights at Freddy's because it was a big seller was less of the fact that it was making money, but more the fact like, oh, I found something people actually want to play. Let me keep making it.
Yeah. To anyone who doesn't know, the entire reason Scott Cawthon was, encouraged to step down was because somebody found out he donated to the Trump campaign one time. And he never said anything bad. He never did anything bad. All he did was make a political donation. Oh my God! End of the world. You must step down.
Speaking of politics, just briefly.
That's it.
Did you see the big announcement from today?
Yeah, I heard the big announcement that Twitter Spaces can't handle more than 300,000 people at one time.
Yeah. There was already like a third of a million people that jumped in, but there was like 1 million people that wanted to jump in, and fucking Twitter Spaces crashed because DeSantis announced officially that he's going to be running for presidency.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe
that was hilarious that it crashed.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like his campaign, just a microcosm. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe his internal polling says something different, but yeah, it looks like a lost cause to me. But who knows?
Oh, I think it is. I honestly think it is, especially because like he's going to be running against Trump, and it's like, okay, of the two. For that half of the people of the nation, like who would vote for him over Trump?
Yeah, I mean he's Trump light. So why would you go with Trump light when you got the real thing?
Diet Trump, yeah. Like at this point, it's more of we're wondering who's going to be on the other side because like obviously Biden wants to run again, but like if you're sane, would you actually run somebody that old again? So. We just need to know like who's going to be both fields there. But, that's still a little bit to come, right? Like we have until the end of the year to find out everybody who's going to be in it.
Yeah. I mean, unless something obviously it's as always it's dictated by events. So unless something strange happens, unexpected, it seems like it's going to be Trump versus Biden. But
which is boring. Like, I'll just sit this election out. There's nothing interesting to watch there. But in more important news, actual important news, even more important than anything else that we covered today. Comics. We barely ever get to talk about interesting comic news on the show because, to be frank, there's barely ever any interesting comic news anymore. Usually it's just a bunch of people ruining things, and we're like, I'm checked out. I don't care about that. Or occasionally we'll have a dedicated show to somebody who's promoting their indie comic, which is stuff I'd rather be talking about anyway. And today, or not today, it was 2 days ago. 2 days ago, there was a huge announcement with Rippaverse Comics, which you're familiar with, but for our audience who isn't, that Rippaverse is by Young Rippa, a.k.a. Eric July, who is a local here to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He's just a little bit outside of Fort Worth. And he makes comics. Also is I believe, thrash metal is the specific genre that he's in for music. Some type of metal. I think it's thrash metal.
Oh, I have no idea.
But he was doing music first, and then that's when he got into the commentary side of things. And he started his own little comic company. and it was Isum or Isum, I don't know how it's pronounced, was the first book for the Rippaverse. And now the craziest thing, industry veteran pro Chuck Dixon is going to be writing a 90-page graphic novel called Alpha Core for the Rippaverse, which is crazy.
Is he writing it?
Yeah, he is going to be making the book. They have not announced the artist yet.
Okay, I was wondering who the artist was going to be.
Yeah,
I thought he was the artist.
No, Dixon's a writer.
Okay.
But they're staggering out that announcement, so I'm assuming he probably got a pretty big artist to be doing it too. But it's fun. That's the guy who gave us Bane. You know, like that's a big deal.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like I'm excited. I don't usually like make sure that I have to get a book if it's not like easily within my buffer funds. But this one I'm like, fuck it, I might even go hungry for a week to get this book.
Well, I've heard some people talking about, ISOM and Rippaverse and all that, and a lot of people, a lot of big supporters of Eric July are, say like, well, his first book wasn't spectacular, but it was his first book. He's not like an industry, like a 20-year industry veteran. Like for his first book, it's pretty awesome. But
yeah, honestly, if I were to compare it to some other big commentator who did his first book, I think it was written better than, say, like your boy Zach's first book. So it's like he's going in a good direction.
Yeah, and Zach apparently had been in the industry for a while, at least. And so, yeah. But at least, just like Zach, he kind of, after getting the first one out, he kind of wised up and said, well, maybe I should have an actual, longtime veteran actually make the book.
Yeah.
And I'll handle the business side and the promotion and the marketing and all that good stuff. So that seems smart. I imagine he's still going to write ISOP 2.
Oh, I imagine he's even going to have, this book will be after ISOP 2 later this year. But actually, Dixon might. He is a writer and an artist. He might be the artist on this one, and the writer might be different. It's hard to tell with Dixon because he does both, right?
Yeah.
But most of his prominent stuff has been under writing. He might be the artist for it. I wish your site had blogs on it, and I didn't just have to look at scattered tweets, Rippa.
He didn't know the announcement anywhere other than Twitter?
Oh, it was just on the Twitter.
Yeah, it's just a video, right? It's not.
Yeah. But so, I'm just excited anyway. I think he'll still have input regardless, even if he has writers, right? What he'll probably be doing is he will be writing an outline, right? That's what a lot of people do. He'll take that like editor-in-chief role and then be like, okay, here's the outline of the story. Write me a story that fits this outline. Just so that everything stays continuous with each other. I mean, that's what I would do if I had other writers underneath me.
Mm-hmm. What is, Fitzchildren says, why does every indie comic default to replicating DC's Trinity? What is that, like Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman?
I guess. Does every indie comic default to that? I know there's quite a few that do, I get, but there's a lot that don't.
I don't know. I never noticed that pattern before.
I wouldn't say Common America defaults to replicating DC's Trinity.
Indeed.
But I'm trying to think.
What is this? Is this a different character? Or I mean, it's still
so it's going to be a group book kind of thing, which
okay.
That might be why Fizz Shows is bringing that up. It's going to be the Alpha Core.
Okay.
Right, so it's in the same world, but it's different from Isum.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I'm excited. We'll get more news about that. See, he's got a Rippaverse.com. Why? You need to put blog articles. on
Yeah,
your
like where
site.
you put yeah, like press releases, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How hard would that be? Do it. Do it.
More comic news. Image Comics finally leaves Diamond Distributors and have signed an exclusive
Right.
direct market contract with Lunar Distribution.
Lunar. I never heard of that.
Lunar's been around for a little bit. They have been one of DC's distributors since around 2020. In fact, Lunar's one of the only reasons things still got out during the pandemic. So, you know, that there's
All
that.
right.
Yeah.
Why did Diamond shut down? I mean, that absolutely destroyed their business.
I have no clue what's going on with Diamond, which I've seen an interview with the guy who founded and run it. Diamond is a business that fell upwards.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
they never had any real idea what they were doing. They just kind of started like, okay, hey, well, you know, your comics are kind of only local. We could get it on the other side of the country. And they started doing all these different contracts and kind of accidentally became a big business that was running everybody's distribution. And part of it was because comic book stores were new. Before that, people were distributing with newspapers and magazines, right? So they were paying the magazine and newspaper distributor to get it onto the newsstand or on racks and corner stores and stuff like that. And they're like, no, we will help you get to comic stores. And they kind of just became big.
Yeah.
If Chosen wants to know, why is Lunar distribution becoming mandatory? Well, because a lot of people have had it up to here with Diamond. And again, I'm not even blaming Diamond too much. Like, I'm not blaming them in a way that I think they're being malicious or anything. I think they're just incompetent and they've gotten big by accident. But Lunar has been propped up by DC, and it's a little more competent in what it does because of that. And because DC's been doing that, everybody has been slowly moving on to Lunar. I think, yeah, Marvel already departed Diamond back in 2021, and DC departed shortly after, so also in 2021. So Diamond's been losing anything, and now IDW and Dark Horse are also following suit, and this was like the last big one to leave of like the big five. So Diamond is, they still have some. They're just not exclusive, right? So like, I think Image is gone, but IDW and Dark Horse have non-exclusive partnerships with Diamond. But Diamond just doesn't really have anything big. Like, they still have like Oni Press, and they still have like all these other smaller ones, Boom, things like that. But I don't even know if those are exclusive. I think like some of them are also with Lunar as well.
Yeah. Is Lunar not a magazine distributor?
I don't know if they distribute things other than comics, but I see Fizz is asking, why can't someone just use a magazine distributor? You probably can. It depends where you want to be distributed to, but one of the big problems too is like convincing them to put you with the magazines, because comics just haven't been with magazines for long enough. They're like, well, I mean, why we can't put your comic on the magazine rack? And then you're like, why? Why can't you put my comic? I'll pay you to put my comic on the magazine rack. And it's like, well, people won't buy it. Are people buying magazines? How many of those magazines actually sell? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
But I imagine if you actually made a magazine length of comics, you probably could get them to carry it. But you'd be paying a fee like you do with any distributor. Or, a lot of times what their fee is, they'll take a cut. So it'll be like, okay, when the store sells it, or like you sell it to the store, they get their like 10% off the top, and then you get your feedback from it. And then the store has to worry about selling it too to make up their charge. But yeah, I mean, you theoretically could. I just don't know any that are carrying comics. That's the real thing. Maybe Archie might still be with some magazine distributors. That's the only one I would think of, and that's because of Digest.
Yeah. My question is, how do I find a publisher if I wanted to do a book?
An actual publisher?
Yeah. Well, not a publisher, but a printer. I mean, basically,
Oh,
a
a
printer.
printer. Well, what kind of book? You're talking about like the one that you and I were talking about?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
secret one?
yeah.
Well, book printers are typically, you see them under the name of self-publishers, where they don't retain any of the rights to any of the stuff
Yeah.
that you do, right? Amazon actually does self-publishing for books. They don't retain the right of anything you put on there. They just, get to take their cut of the print. I have a book up there on Amazon. You can order as much as you want at a flat creator fee, which is cheaper than obviously what they sell on their store. Like I would tell everybody, the price actually just went up a little bit, but I sell my book for $10, and I only have to pay $3 if I want a copy, right? So that kind of shows you like the difference of how much printing and shipping and stuff. Like, so I've pay $3 plus shipping because obviously they don't put shipping in any of their prices. So it only actually takes $3 out of every sale.
So every time someone buys your book, you get $7.
Yeah, pretty much.
Neat. Well, I don't think I'm going to be going through Amazon, but
No, that's just one option. There's
Okay.
a few, but Amazon's the biggest one. There's not a lot of. Surprisingly, there's a lot of more printers for comics than there are for books. And I think it's because most people that make a book actually try to get into the publishing industry. And if you want to otherwise self-publish, you usually have to find a publishing house that markets themselves as self-publishing. Yeah. And even then, they still want you to sign some weird contract. I mean, the cool thing about like something like Amazon is the contract is the terms of service. I remember back when I was in high school, I was going to go through a small kind of like self-publishing house where it's like, yeah, we'll do your prints and stuff for you, but you basically have to sell it yourself. And they actually sent me a contract over, and I was reading through it. I didn't like the deal they were going to give me for it. And the rates and everything, but I actually would have had to have filled out a physical contract. And I'm like, God, man, we're already in the internet age. Back in like, I think this was 2009 or 10 when I was going to do this. Like, this is ridiculous. Just give me something digital I can sign. I could do an e-signature. We already have e-signatures.
yeah.
The literary publishing industry is just very, very archaic. They don't want to move forward. And Amazon is one of the few people actually pushing it. The funny thing, too, is that there was a smaller indie company that was doing it. It was called, like, Create Space. And then Amazon bought them out, and that's why they're the ones who do it now. But, yeah.
Well, good for Eric July. So we'll see how.
Well, so apparently they're not completely leaving Diamond. Just for comics. Strictly comic stores and stuff like that. Because Lunar doesn't apparently do the bookstores yet, which I find is weird. So
okay.
Image will still continue to use Diamond as its bookstore distributor, meaning like Barnes & Noble and things like that. So Diamond, you're still hanging in there as long as you don't have competition to Barnes & Noble and other things. So I guess
They're the only
collections and
distributors. They're the only distributors of comic books to bookstores.
as far as I know, yeah.
Weird.
I think like DC and Marvel and stuff, they directly distribute it to Barnes & Noble only because Barnes & Noble is such a big company that you would make a direct deal with them.
Yeah.
But Diamond will get it every bookstore that sells comics. They'll get it there.
Yeah.
But those were only going to be like trade paperbacks and collections. That's it. That's the only thing you see at those places. So it's still not good for like actually building up a story and getting people to want to buy it in the first place.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think. I mean, obviously, comic book stores as a concept, just only comic books is just not a thing anymore.
No, most of them have had to just transition into hobby stores, as they call them now, or you call them niche stores, where they have tabletop games, trading cards, and everything else.
And a lot of manga too, I imagine.
Yeah. If they can. Now, that's actually where Barnes & Noble exceeds, because unless you are buying like weekly or monthly magazines for manga, you're pretty much only getting them in the tankobon form, which is basically just means trade paperback in Japanese. And they're just the collections of like maybe 10 to 20 chapters at a time. And where people are going to go to that, they're just going to go Barnes & Noble and buy the tankobon.
Yeah. Or Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's funny is, like, you know who was actually doing the translation and distribution for the monthly Shonen Jump here in the States for the longest time? Wizards of the Coast.
Really?
Yeah. That's how you got Shonen Jump monthly, was through Wizards of the Coast. Yes, I'm not surprised that there's an entire manga section at your local Barnes & Noble. There's one at like every local Barnes & Noble in the entire nation, and it dwarfs the like trade paperback and collection comic rack. Like, you'll have like one shelf for all of the Western comics, and then you'll have like a whole fucking corner just for the manga, or maybe 2 or 3 or upwards of 5 shelves for manga. It's not even close. And then people argue, like, well, the manga takes up more space. Arguably, not really, right? Because they're turned sideways and they actually fit properly on the shelves, while the comic stuff, a lot of their trades and collections are so big that it won't actually stay on the shelf unless you turn them facing, so you have to have them stacked. And ultimately, the page count, they end up taking up about the same amount of space per shelf. There's just more manga that's being sold. We did have another one.
I was gonna say, is this music really from Legend of Zelda?
Yes, it's from Link's Awakening.
Oh, Link's Awakening, that's what it is. I was trying to figure out what song this was, and I saw on the screen it said Zelda, but it sounded familiar.
Yeah, it's the Cyber song.
Okay.
Yeah. What we got? Oh, Nintendo. Yeah, it's bringing up Link. They're facing a lawsuit over Mario Kart Tours. Immoral loot boxes is what they're being called.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're being sued by a parent who claims that the loot boxes once offered by Mario Kart Tour are immoral. Honestly, even before reading their justification, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I use the word immoral, because I don't know if I would use the word moral in a business sense in this case. It's not like they're killing people. I would call them unethical. They're unethical loot boxes. They are probably some of the worst loot boxes or gacha of any game I've ever played. They also didn't disclose the odds very early on, right? But they started to once the laws changed on us, so I don't blame them for that. But the problem with the Mario Kart ones, and we've talked about this before, not only are the single rolls ridiculous enough, they basically tell you how much a character is worth, because you can buy a character outright. If you're willing to spend $40, does it give you the equivalent in like gems that you can spend on the pipes too? Yes, but it's the only way you can guarantee you get a character. So they're pretty much telling you exactly what the character is worth right there. So the suit's plaintiff apparently spent more than $170 on microtransactions in Mario Kart Tour. Which is probably not even that bad compared to other people. and it has a practices known as dark patterns that have been made illegal in Washington and California in recent years. Which, I mean, not everything that becomes illegal in Washington and California necessarily should be, and vice versa. Not everything legal there should. But this is one of the cases where I agree with these states. This game in particular was especially bad when it came to gacha.
I need to look this up.
Yeah. What, the court case?
What is a dark pattern?
Oh, I have no fucking clue. There's a link to it in Wikipedia. You could go to wikipedia.org/wiki/dark_pattern, and it actually is their thing. And a dark pattern, also known as a deceptive design practice, is a user interface that has been carefully crafted to trick users into doing things such as buying overpriced insurance with their purchase or signing up for recurring bills. Oh, okay. Like, I get why that's been banned. Other states have been trying to pass that. It just hasn't. So it's there's been things happening with the FTC too, where you have to at least be able to easily cancel those type of things if you did get caught in it. So at least that has passed nationwide. But only certain states have been giving you like counteractive options or even trying to ban it outright. And it's basically been those two.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, people should be able to get insurance or sign up for recurring payments if they want to. But you need to give them all the information outright, and they need to know exactly what they're doing. You shouldn't be able to trick somebody into that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how this falls into the dark. Like, I think these are really bad. Gotcha. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to figure out how exactly this falls into that dark pattern definition, though.
Yeah. Well, one of them. Okay, so here's one. It's the they call it what's it called? Monetized rivalries. It's a monetary dark pattern that basically involves, basically buying a currency with real money, and then the currency is used. The in-game currency is used.
I think the EU has already put it that, like, if you want to operate in the EU, you actually have to give the exact currency amount of what something is worth, even if it has an in-game currency.
Of real money. So, like, they were saying, like, here's an example: $5 buys I don't know where they're talking. Basically, $5 buys 400 Microsoft points. Renting an HD movie costs 480 points.
Yeah.
So not only do you not know how much money that actually is, which is it's apparently $6, but you also can't buy 480
no,
points. You have to
get 800. Yeah.
And then you have extra.
Yeah, a lot of games are like that. Riot was doing that very early on. And I think they had to change because they operate in California primarily, where you basically, unless you were getting one of the really, really old skins that have been discounted, if you wanted any skin, you basically had to always go up the tier above the actual price of the skin. You can never just, like, buy the exact amount of RP that you needed. I think what they did, what a lot of these things do is they make a new service where it's like, you can either load up the in-game currency, or as their way of walking around it, when you go to buy something, it'll ask you if you want to load the exact amount of currency, and they'll give you, like, the translation, like, it's going to cost $4.75 or something like that after tax. I think that's actually the better way to do it anyway. I think you're just being more real with your customer if you just basically get to check things and be like, okay, this is how much you need for everything you want, and we can charge you the exact amount. That would be non-deceptive.
Yeah. Yeah, like, when you buy stuff from the Nintendo eStore, right?
Yeah, you could do that.
You can put you can put a certain amount of money in your account if you want to, or you can just add only what you need to buy that game.
And I think that should always be an option for the first one, because sometimes you're gifted stuff. So, like, as a gift card, or somebody just wants to load up money, it's like, hey, I've got a credit card. As a gift, I'm just going to give you $20 worth of eShop points, or, like, money that you can spend on shit. Like, that should always be an option for games. Or some people are like, this is my entertainment fund. I want to spend it on this game. I don't know what I want yet, so I'm just going to put my $20 of this paycheck on the game, and I'll spend it as I need it. Like, that should always be an option. It just needs to be done in a very fair way that doesn't deceive people.
Yeah, you should see. I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of it, like the stuff that Asmongold went through with Diablo Immortal.
Oh yeah.
Where there's like 8 different kinds of currency, and some of them you can get it by playing the game, and some of them you can't, and it's insane.
Yeah, and Japan is starting to get tighter about that too. China's already been tighter, where it's like, listen, you can have currencies for different things if they're only in-game stuff, right? Like things you need for crafting or blah blah blah. But basically, what you need to do when it comes to purchases is you can have one normal, like I can grind this in the game currency, and you can have one that equals real world money. No more than that. That's it.
And the other thing they need to get rid of, and I don't see how this can't be categorized as gambling, is to say you have to know ahead of time what you're getting. Basically, outlaw gacha games. You know?
I don't think gacha games need to be outlawed. Because I think some people already have better practices with it. Gambling addiction is the bigger problem than anything.
Yeah.
There just needs to be more precise legislation or regulations around what is and isn't allowed.
Yeah. But I don't see how you can say, okay, gambling isn't allowed, but you can pay money into this game where there's a chance that you'll get something better or worse just based on chance. Like,
so one of the things they have is pity systems, right? If a game, this is how you actually know if a game respects the player or not. Whether it has a pity system at all, or whether it has just soft pity, or if it has both hard and soft pity. And I can explain what that means. And actually, believe it or not, the one that a lot of people complain about, because there have been some people that have ruined their lives because, honestly, these people it should be marked as gambling. There should be a disclaimer telling people it's gambling. That I agree with. But adults should be allowed to gamble if they want to some degree, right?
Yeah.
But there have been people who have pretty much mortgaged their house on Genshin Impact for no reason, against what the creators want, because they actually tell you not to pull on every character. They're like, listen, there's so many ways in this game to monetize the game. If you want to support us, you can get like the monthly battle pass thing. You can get the smaller thing where we give you the Primo Gem in-game currency, like trickle down day by day over a week or whatever. There's so many things you can do if you want to spend a reasonable amount of money. Only pull on a character if that you especially like them, and that's why they introduce almost every character through the story first before they're in a banner. But I actually think they're better, as much as people complain, because they have both soft and hard pity. So soft pity is, and you see this in a lot of games, every 10 pulls you are guaranteed to get a 4-star in that 10 pull, no matter what. So if and it resets when you get one. So if you got a 4-star 6 pulls in, that resets it. So within another 10 pulls, you are going to get another 4-star, even if it's on pull 10. And a lot of times, if it happens early, it's going to end up being on pull 10, just so it resets the soft pity. But you will get one every 10 pull. Sometimes it'll be a weapon, sometimes it'll be a character, whatever, but it'll always be something you want. And I think Honkai is actually better. I think it's 90, but in Genshin, it's like every 100 pulls, you are guaranteed to get a 5-star, right? So that's the soft pity. But then there's hard pity too. So because every 100 pulls, you are guaranteed to get a 5-star, if you're on a banner, the first one will be a 50-50, right? And the 50-50 will be either the 5-star for the banner or some other 5-star. If you lose the 50-50, no matter what on the next one, you will get it. So you can guarantee you're getting the thing you pull within 200 pulls. So if it's not that hard between banners to save up 200 pulls worth, right? So if you know somebody's coming up that you want, you could just save, right, with in-game currency. You don't have to spend any money on it. Especially if you want to monetize or help them through other ways, you can, again, get like the monthly pass and you'll get the in-game currency from it, right? Or if you're somebody who actually wants to spend the money, you can just get the 20 pulls worth. I don't recommend that, but you could. And you guarantee it. So it has both soft and hard pity. Honkai actually right now has a really hard pity where there's a permanent thing on the standard banner. If throughout the time that you play, you've made 300 pulls on it, you get to just pick one of the 6 5-stars in there. And you just get it, right? That's hard pity right there. I think if you have a fair pity system, you're fine. It's still gambling. You should still put a warning that it's gambling, but it's fine. Mario Kart had no pity system. The pity system was spend $40 and you get the character right here.
Yeah. Or you can try for it, and if you don't get it, keep trying.
And you might spend way more than $40, right? So you talk about a deceptive practice. It's something that otherwise could be free, but they're like, no, we're going to charge you the price of a game. And I want to remind people, when Mario Kart Tour came out, the 3DS and the Wii U were both systems. So 3DS games were on average like $45, right? So we're going to charge you the price of a game for a single character.
I think 35. I think usually 3DS
They
games are
averaged
like
about 40-ish,
40.
right? I think Wild World was 40. Some third-party
Yeah, like
stuff, they
39.
let them go up to $45, but none of them ever hit 50.
Yeah, like $39.99 was usually yeah.
But I think like
that's
all
crazy.
mainstream Nintendo games for the 3DS, like their actual first-party stuff, were 40. So the price of a game on a phone. So we compare it to 3DS as a mobile in a way, right? Handheld.
Yeah.
Price of a full game for a single character. And we're going to do this once a month. We're going to put out a new character. And a lot of them literally were just skins, but the skins were their own characters. So they were like a better version of the character. So we have like Wedding Dress Peach or Kimono Peach or whatever is a different character. And you're like, why is Kimono Peach 5-star? Like an S-rank character. While like Safari Peach is only a 3-star character. Nintendo, what's going on? You're charging me the same for both. Dude, I fucking hate Mario Kart Tour. I think, actually, Dragalia Lost was fine. Dragalia Lost also had both soft and hard pity. And it was built like a lot of these other better games. But like both Fire Emblem Heroes, which I think Fire Emblem Heroes didn't even have a hard pity. I think it had a soft pity, but it was a very bad one. And Tour had like almost no pity system. They were some of the worst games with some of the worst rates out of anything. And people were like, oh, no, Fire Emblem. People thought Heroes was better than Genshin. Like, you clearly have no idea how statistics work if you think Heroes is better than Genshin. I'm never going to talk to you about basic math again. And people were defending Fire Emblem Heroes, which is a abhorrent game. It's a watered-down version of Fire Emblem where they're getting you to spend maybe even more money than people spend on Genshin. Because I think that game has made more money. I think it broke $1 billion at one point. More money than all of the Fire Emblem franchise combined throughout its entire lifetime. Like by an order of magnitude almost. It's insane. And like,
I don't
people
understand.
would fucking break their bank account rolling for their waifus in a game where they barely even play it.
Yeah, I don't understand why people spend so much freaking money.
No, I don't know.
On these games where it's like there's the equivalent game on PC or, there's other Fire Emblem games, where you only pay for it once.
Yeah, and you get to see your waifu right there because almost all of them. Now, you don't get to see your waifu in a bikini or a bunny suit or anything like that. Yeah, but like the actual character, though, came from a game. You could just play the game the character came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason I spent any money on like Pocket Camp was because it was a unique experience that no other game quite was like it, and it was fairly cheap. I mean,
But I also never paid for a role. Once I never paid for a role. All I paid for the side services that made the game a little bit easier, a little more enjoyable.
Yeah. I'd put in like $5, and it was like, that gives me everything I would want for like the next.
And I think one of the side services trickled out some Leaf tickets anyway, so you did get some rolls out of it.
Yeah, you got all the currencies, I believe, just by playing the game.
And that's
just
why, like, they're good
putting
gotcha
in
games.
$5 just got them faster. Yeah.
There are good gotcha games, and that's actually why I will defend the MiHoYo stuff because I think they actually do it pretty well. They could do it better, but a lot of this is like almost like technology advancing. You have to do the trial and error of what's good and bad, and they've been doing better with each game. Like Honkai's system for support is better than Genshin's was. I just recommend to people get the side services because you're going to get rolls out of them anyway, right? And the thing about the MiHoYo ones, they give you enough characters to play the game anyway. You like never have to roll if you didn't want to. It would be harder, but you could do it. Almost all the guides for all of the stuff in those games have F2P guides for free to play, where it's like, yeah, you can beat this boss with just free to play people. You can get through this whole story with just free to play people. That's another thing that I think makes a gacha game good. If you don't have to ever roll to play through the story of the game, then that's a good game. I still think you should support it, but they give you better ways to support it, like the monthly purchase or whatever. You're like, hey, I'm going to probably spend a whole year playing this game. I don't know if I'll spend more than that. What would I normally spend on a game that I might play for a year? $60? Okay. Well, if I make 4 $15 purchases over 4 months, I will basically have spent the money I would have spent on a game. Boom, I supported it. And you get a lot of shit out of it. Like, I don't think gacha is even a bad, or even as a service is a bad way of doing a game. You and I have talked about this before. It's actually been really good for developers to be able to continuously develop a game.
Yeah.
People just need to do it right. And a lot of that involves informing the customer. And I think if that means there needs to be a disclaimer screen at the beginning of the game and stuff like that, so be it. It'd probably be for the best.
Yeah, well, I think I've told you, I years and years ago, I attended a really good talk about, mobile monetization, and they talked about why it's good and why it's, why it could be a good thing, that, it kind of like allows you to pay for as much as you want, and you can either enjoy the game for nothing, or you can pay more and enjoy it this way or whatever. But I think people took that idea and just went too far with it and said, so what I got out of that was we can milk our customers for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's the problem, because you do want whales, but you don't have to do much, because there's some people who just make more money and they're going to want to spend it on the game. Like, you don't have to, like, trick people. There will be, if your game is good, that's the more important part. If your game is good, the free-to-play players will be subsidized by enough people. It will happen. And if it's not happening, then you probably just didn't make a good game.
Yeah. One of the problems, though, with the idea of whales comes about in, like, Diablo Immortal, right?
Yes.
Is that if somebody spends $1,000 on your game, you cannot allow them to lose. You
Pretty
can't, like,
much.
if there's a PvP aspect to it, or some sort of competition, if somebody spent $1,000, you have to guarantee that they're going to beat a person who spent $0 or $5.
Or
and it's like,
you have to rig the odds so much in their favor that if they do lose, they have to feel like they fucked up, right? It's like, I'm the one who lost, not I didn't get beat, right? Like, you have to at least have it almost in that. Like, David beat Goliath this day. Oh, well.
Yeah. But you always got to make it so that you'd have to almost intentionally lose. I mean,
or just be like really, really bad. Like, oh.
Yeah, I suppose.
But you have to feel the odds are rigged, right? Like, the person can't quit because they're bad. They're like, I should have won that. I'm just bad. There's some people like that, but like, you can feel the odds when it's in that situation.
Yeah. But that's kind of a thing where it's like, okay. In that case, it's pay to win. I mean, they always say, well, it's not technically.
Well, this is also why they do that, right? PvP is what actually makes most gacha games bad in general, right? And part of it is, I don't know if you've played it, even games where you get to play, because there are auto RPGs, or AFK RPGs as they call them, where at most all you do is, like, in the fight you hit like a super button once the energy comes up, but you can even just have it auto do that. And those are really popular. I think, like, Raid Shadow Legends is kind of like an AFK RPG, or there's even things called like AFK Arena. And the thing about that is the PvP in those games makes sense that they're also still like auto battles. So the person who pays the most wins. But then there's games where you actually play everything, and the PvP is still auto battles, because if the PvP is an auto battle, then they can guarantee that the person who spent the most money wins.
Yeah. Right.
And like that's not real PvP though.
Yeah.
But that, again,
So,
the
yeah,
MiHoYo stuff,
that's-
they don't
that's-
do PvP, right? It's all
Right,
PvE.
right.
They even do co-op in Genshin, and it's like I think for if you're just actually trying to make a story, you're trying to make a game with cool mechanics and stuff, and filter it to players, especially if you have a lot of ideas for characters and stuff like that. It can be a
Yeah.
good system. It doesn't have to be abused.
Right.
Just
right.
a lot of people are going to.
Well, before we close out, I have a sort of
what do you got?
breaking news. This is from 8 or 9 hours ago. I just kind of ran into this story. Um, China had basically outlawed retail investment in Bitcoin or crypto at all a few
Yeah, I
years
remember.
ago.
I remember us talking about that too.
Yeah. Well, apparently 8 or 9 hours ago, they just announced that Hong Kong, at least, I don't know if it's the rest of China, but Hong Kong is basically legalizing Bitcoin again.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're allowing, it says, retail investors to buy Bitcoin and NFTs, presumably, that sort of thing. So yeah, this could be a start of a new bull market in crypto. We've been in a bear market for like at least a year.
Yeah.
It's been kind of rough, but
There's a lot of like
Could be-
physical reasons why mainland China had banned it that we went
Yeah.
over. So I could understand why if you are going to unban it, it would start in the trade center of Hong Kong.
yeah. But it's funny because crypto is really, I don't know about Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoin's ever going to change because it's
Yeah.
just kind of stuck in its ways. But newer crypto is all switching over to proof of stake from proof of work. So you no longer, all the complaints about NFTs, ruining the environment and stuff. If they're using Ethereum, the new Ethereum, it's all proof of stake. So that none of that's true anymore. They don't
Yeah.
have to use.
And it was barely true in the
humongous-
first place.
Yeah, well, that's true. But
Yeah.
they've kind of taken that argument away, and that's the big reason why China banned it, was because these huge server farms were using up so much electricity. But nowadays, I mean, outside of Bitcoin, most cryptocurrencies are on proof of stake, which doesn't take up any.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like you gain interest from putting your crypto in a savings account. That's all it is. So that's how it creates more crypto instead of having to do these stupid mathematical problems.
Oh, yes. We're running into the problem of fiat currency now, right? Because one of the cool things about Bitcoin, with it being proof of work, is it was basically digital gold. You couldn't actually
Yeah.
create it faster than it would be mined, right? There was a set
Right.
rate, and it would always be at that set rate.
Yeah.
But now, if you can get interest on crypto and it creates more crypto, that just sounds like printing money to me. I mean, at least there's still like
Well,
now a formula.
there's
It's not
a
at
limit.
that point yet. There is a limit, but it does seem
And
like it's
frankly-
going in that direction.
But most cryptocurrencies are actually deflationary.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of, like Ethereum gets used up. There's something called gas fees, which you use to trade currency. And basically, when you pay a gas fee, at least some of it essentially goes to a dead wallet and gets burned, and so it disappears forever. But anyway, yeah.
Well,
there's
that's because,
that's a whole big discussion.
Right now, it's still ran by a bunch of nerds, which is probably for the
Yeah.
best. You just
Yeah.
wait until it's not ran by nerds anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the nerds.
But
'Cause
then-
those are engineers are like problem-solving mode. It's like, okay, we want this to work in a system, but once those
Yeah.
people are gone, it's like, no, we want money. That's all we want.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've invested a couple hundred here and there in various different deflationary currencies that
Yeah.
theoretically should skyrocket just by pure scarcity, but then you find out, but actually they only burn, 1/1000th of a percent a month
Yeah.
or something like that. It's like, okay. It's not very deflationary, it's only slightly. So, oh well. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's a whole
Well,
big
real quickly
discussion.
before we end, there was one last thing I want to bring up, just very, very minor. So
Okay.
you know how there's a Minecraft movie that's coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently Jason Momoa's gonna be in it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's going to be starring in it, so I'm assuming that means he's playing Steve. But it's fine. I mean, he's a good actor. He could probably definitely do the voice acting for Steve.
Yeah.
Who's also going to be in it, or at least in talks, is Matt Berry. Which he's such a great actor. I would love to. You don't know Matt Berry? So he's been in a lot of things. I think most people now would know him for What We Do in the Shadows. I know him for things like IT Crowd, because he was the like the son of the boss who came in and replaced him. Great actor.
Yeah.
Love Matt Berry. He's been in a lot of really funny, stupid shit. And he, especially for something like if you want to do something funny and stupid for Minecraft, and it would be a perfect property to do something funny and stupid. He is probably the best person to put in there.
He's British.
Yeah. Oh, he has a tendency to talk like this. Yeah. Love the guy. So
Cool.
I wasn't excited for a Minecraft movie,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I don't know. Momo, he's pretty funny. I actually really liked him on SNL, even though a lot of people thought that episode was stupid. But I also feel like I have a lot of different tastes than the modern audience of SNL, so that might be why I liked his episode. And Matt Berry's hilarious. So it's like, I don't know, maybe I'll go and watch the Minecraft movie when it comes out, depending on what the trailers look like.
Yeah.
It's
Cool.
apparently being directed by Jared Hess, who was known for Napoleon Dynamite. Which I didn't like that movie. But who knows? I don't know the other stuff. I'll have to look into it. But that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about. We're at the end of the show.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you all for showing up. If you enjoy the show, please share it out with somebody else who might like it. And if you really enjoyed the show, considering giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive really helps us out. And we'll see you guys in the next episode, whenever that is.
Bye-bye.